Okay, welcome to another edition of the Above the Bridge podcast. I'm your host, Thaddeus Park. First thing I want to do is shout out our sponsors. Defend Hawaii's been with me from the start. Go check them out. They got some new stuff for spring. Go to defendhawaii.com. When you check out, use promo code ATBPOD upon checkout. You'll get 15% off your entire purchase order. They also have a store in Winter Mall called No One. Go check them out. Also, iRep Detail Supply, and they're a one-stop shop for everything you need to detail your truck, car, van. They have waxes, polishes, anything you need. Go check them out. They have a store in Temple Valley Shopping Center. Else, if not, you can go to irepdetailsupply.com. Again, use promo code ATBPOD upon checkout. You'll receive 15% off your entire purchase order. Next, we have Hawaii Candy Factory, and they're a local snack company. They have different kind of snacks. You see them everywhere, and they're pretty popular on Instagram. They have those little packages called noms. They have different kind of candies for seasons, and they also have some fundraising opportunities if you want to sell noms for a fundraiser. Me personally, I use noms to fundraise for my daughter's volleyball trip to Florida. But go check them out. HawaiiCandyFactory.com, promo code ATBPOD upon checkout. You'll receive 10% off your entire purchase order. Last, we have our Hawaii Medicinal Mushroom Company, and it's Medicinal Mushrooms Hawaii. They're a medicinal mushroom company. They have 4 different mushrooms right now. It's the lion's mane, turkey tail, red reishi, and the chaga mushroom. Each one of these mushrooms, they have an extract, and they put in a tincture. You put in your coffee or drip it under your tongue. I take it every single day with my coffee, the red reishi. I take it before bed, and I've been sleeping like a champ. If you don't know what these mushrooms do, go to medmushroomhigh.com. It explains what each of these mushrooms do. You can also order, and if you use promo code ATBPOD upon checkout, all capitals, you'll receive 45% off your first tincture of whatever mushroom you want to get. So go check them out, medmushroomhigh.com. Aloha. Okay, this week on the Above the Bridge podcast, my guest is a videographer. He runs his own podcast as well, 100 Bad Videos. If you ever get a chance to check out his content on Instagram, it's, in lack of a better word, I can describe it as art. His name is Kenji Lee. His brother was on my show, and yeah, I'm honored to have you on here, bro. You're kind of inspiring from just your content alone.
Hey, thank you, Thad. You too. You need some flowers too, man, because we are both putting this content out there for everybody. I think now is the best time ever, really, at least in our lives, that you can get this kind of content from anybody, anywhere, anytime. So what
Yeah.
we're doing collectively, and other podcasters too, is I think it's important work. So thank you.
Right on. I appreciate it. Well, let's dive into it. 100 Bad Videos. How did that come about, and what inspired you to start creating a podcast?
100 Bad Videos is really a self-accountability mechanism for me, but I want to be an example for anybody, anywhere, anytime. Um, it's kind of, I'm Japanese, or Japanese American. I did spend a lot of time living in Japan as well, but um, it's kind of got some Japanese roots to it, where it's like cyclical versus linear, right? Western, Eastern kind of dynamic here, where it's not a goal, it's a process. But 100 is kind of a nice, accountable, round number. And I didn't want to name my podcast after me. I didn't want to name it after, I wanted a number in it, because numbers universal. Everyone would look at the numeric, those 10 digits, and everybody knows, but not everybody might know how to read, the 26-letter alphabet we got.
Yeah.
Or, so I was like, a number, it's accountable, it's I kind of look at it like P90X in a way, or these workout plans. where you just focus on the input and you have a track, you have a way to keep yourself accountable. So 100 accountability, bad is that one is more like, as you know, I have a background in video, and it's some of it is like really nice, polished wedding videos. Some of it is commercials. There's a whole, and the scene has changed so much in the last whatever 13 years I've been doing
Oh yeah.
this. So a lot of that has been make it nice, polished, clean, quote unquote good. And good is so subjective. Bad is too, but at least when you have to choose one, I see that myself as a creative, I stop myself so much time from sharing because I don't think it's good enough, or I want to do one more thing. And bad is saying, forget that process. Tell that inner voice, hey, sit down. There's a time and place, but let's focus again on the input. Let's put one more notch on our tally sheet because we're at me right now. I'm at episode 31.
Nice.
I wanted to do it all in a year, but it's pretty hard.
Yeah.
But that speaks to the bad too. It's like, yeah, I don't have the right scheduling. I don't have some episodes the light starts falling down because I just got it. I didn't know how to mount it yet. There's a lot of imperfections, and the Japanese side of me is like, that's what makes it good.
Yo.
The process. So it's a real like deep thing. But 100 bad videos is basically just post it. Just post it. And I guarantee, like if I'm your drill sergeant or your like coach, fitness coach or something, I'm saying like I'm not guaranteeing you results, but I am guaranteeing you you'll be a different person in a different place if you go from 0 to 100.
Yo.
And that goes for anything.
Yeah. And I definitely understand being consistent is kind of challenging. And man, 100, you gonna keep going after 100?
Yeah, actually, I already got the YouTube for 1,000 bad videos. The
Yeah.
handle, 100 bad. I got 100 bad videos, but 1,000 bad videos. Um, but it'll just keep going. It'll evolve. And again, I'm not tied to the end result.
Yeah.
I'm just it's very selfish because I've learned so much about in studio production because so much of my background is in the field, so
Yeah.
many things and people I can't control, you know. But this is something that I have more control of. It's literally I just changed one of our bedrooms in our home to this. So I mean, look, boom. Like this is just a bedroom. You know what I mean?
Oh,
I learned how to use these things for streaming and all of that. So like I'm learning a lot more about the different faces and uses of video. And we're just scratching the surface.
well, that's the biggest thing, right? The ability to understand that you want to learn and you don't know everything. My mom, my mom was in education, and even on her tombstone, it says, you learn every single day until you go to heaven. It says that on her gravestone. And I try to implement that. And it seems like that's the kind of thing you're going for, is always trying to learn something. I think
Yeah.
with podcasts, there's no, I guess, wrong way to do it, is because you're expressing yourself how you want to express it. You could learn and make mistakes, but it's at the end of the day, it's you expressing yourself. And if you have guests, it's trying to draw inspiration from your guests. How has you taking the time with your guests? What was your genre, or what was your idea with when you book these different individuals?
You know, ultimately when you start, bro, I started a podcast, right? Like, okay, who are we gonna have fill in these
Yep.
seats, right? That's the first thing. And so
Yep.
I thought about that too, right? Like, well, I'm gonna do 100 podcasts with like my bro, or me and my bro did half of those 100. Like, I was like, yeah, even if I did that, that's 100, right? Again, it doesn't matter. And what's gonna happen that we can't see? We're at zero, right? And what's beyond the horizon of 20, 25, 30 episodes? Like, we don't know. And
Yeah.
so even if I did do 100 podcasts with one person, what could happen in that conversation you have 100 times? You don't know. So I wasn't worried too much about, maybe a great business idea comes about, or maybe both of you decide to try something that we the point is we don't know. And so again, take the focus off the result and just focus on the input. What am I doing? So I told myself that from the beginning. It's kind of like a cop out too, you might say, because I could stall at 30 episodes for a year if I wanted to.
Yeah.
Because when I will get to 100, but I thought, I've met so many. There was this one person I met in Japan. I think it was my second year there. And when I met this guy, this was in my capoeira class. So I did some capoeira in high school, and then when in Portland too. I spent time in Oregon. So basically, I born and raised in Hawaii. Then I went to Portland State University in Oregon. Once I graduated, I flew across the ocean to Japan, and I was
Oh.
there for the next 8 years before coming back home to Hawaii to raise our family. Right. So when I met this guy in my capoeira class in Japan, and he was a striking, like same like doppelganger, however you like duplicate of someone I grew up with in Ever Beach at Campbell High School. And it was so it kind of freaked me out. Like this guy is just like my friend at home, but they don't even know each other. There's nothing like. So I for some reason that duo is stuck in my head. Like there's so much awe and amazing people that we're close to, that like we're so similar. Even though these two people, I'm thinking like they never met each other, but they're both very athletic. They're probably like the best in whatever they do. Like this guy was the best in our capoeira class. The guy I'm thinking of was the best surfer, skater, songwriter, guitar player, play every instrument, right? This guy over here in capoeira, you play a lot of instruments too, right?
Yeah.
And so he's playing every instrument the best. He knows all the songs. I'm like, what is this going on here? You find like this weird, to me, I just got so interested in like not trying to find people and finding what's inside the people that we already know.
Yeah.
It's a different mind frame, right? So I'm not looking for guests that were like on this podcast and got this many followers, because I know that they're going to collaborate with me, and that'll substantiate my channel and my brand so that one day I can make an exit, which is a play, right? Like
Yeah.
let's be real. Like podcast as a business is a play. I get it. And that adds to the beauty of all of what we're doing. That wasn't my play though for this thing. It was more like, instead of finding people outwards, looking amongst the people I already know. And so I was like, well, I know like these two guys. I'm thinking that's two guests. I'm thinking my brother, like all of a sudden I thought about it. I was like, if I just had a conversation with everybody I know, that's one, that's more than 100 episodes. But
Yeah.
two, my relationships with each one, which is probably the biggest reveal I've had so far, is that, bro, you sit down with anybody and have a conversation, like an intentional conversation for like an hour. We don't do that anymore. Like our communication styles are so like quick. Just like text versus voicemail versus calling on the phone versus knocking on your door, showing up. Those are all different transactions that are happening. Not transactions, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Conversations. And so sitting down in the same space like this without your phone, like that, we don't do that much. So I kind of found there's this therapeutic nature to, just having conversations with people. And I think it a lot of the guests who come on echo that sentiment. Like, wow, that felt good. Like, I want to do it again. So I think it depends on the play, right? Which is actually one of the questions I have for you. Like,
Yeah.
what's your play with your podcast?
Well, first off,
What are you trying to?
I wanna the reason why I was laughing when you said that is I feel the exact same way. I have a lot of close friends that were guests on my shows, and some have passed away. And to have an hour of uninterrupted conversation on video, and when you were saying it, I was laughing because I know exactly what you're talking about. we could be in a room together watching TV, or if somebody's on their phone, you'll get a text, you'll get a phone call, but to have a uninterrupted conversation for an hour, sharing thoughts and ideas, that has been one of the biggest gifts I have got with my podcast. And like, for someone, one of my guests who I was close with passed away, and his mom watches that episode a lot, and it just is something that I never thought I would have gained from when I started. To answer your question, when I started this podcast, it was something I always wanted to do. I listened to a bunch of podcasts, always thought it'd be fun to do it. My mom at the time, well, first off, the pandemic hit. So I had a lot more free time. My mom, I was taking care of her. She had ALS, and fortunately, because we're myself and my dad were in the medical field, we could have her at her house and we could take care of her. But I used the podcast during that time as a distraction. It was rough. My mom was sick. I
Mhm.
was watching her deteriorate, and it was a creative outlet for me to distract myself and also be constantly doing something where it was challenging me. I was having a plateau in my life where I'm a nightclub promoter. Also, I'm a I'm a lab tech for the Cancer Research Center. So I do research for cancer at the med school. So my life was being plateaued. I wasn't
Yeah.
challenging myself in different ways, and this gave me an opportunity to actually pull the trigger. My one of my my best friends, my brother DJ Hoppaboy, was on somebody else's podcast, and he said that on that podcast, he said one of my brothers been talking about making a podcast, and I'm still waiting for him to do it. And he kind of called, yeah, he called me
Yeah,
out
he
on my
called you
own.
out. Yeah.
Yeah, he called me out on my own BS. And I was in the lab listening to it. I was pulling samples, and I stopped what I was doing, and I told myself, like, he's calling me out right now. This moment right now is when I'm gonna pull the trigger. And from then I started taking the steps into doing what I had to do. I got so much more out of this podcast than I could have ever imagined. For one, I realize um when I'm gone, my daughter can watch all these episodes and hopefully get inspired from her dad, as well as the guests that I've had on, and also hear me have conversations. Sometimes I would give anything to hear my mom be
Yeah.
talking to other people. And I also had my daughter on every year. I've been doing this for 3 years. Every Christmas, I have my daughter on, and it'll give a visual account of her growing up and the way she talks, the way she um thinks, and the person she changes into. Because she's not the same person as my first episode. Then we just recorded last Christmas, so that's been fun. But um
Wow.
the people I have on my podcast, they're friends, they're people I just meet through other people or through Instagram. They all have something in common. They're striving to better themselves and better the people around them. They're business owners and celebrities, MMA fighters. It's such a big scope of guests that I have, but they all have that thing inside them that they want to do something different. They're not your everyday people. And um for me, it's been a blessing to throw shine at some of these people who have small businesses or have certain things that they're trying to do, and they're not really getting noticed because they don't have the opportunity. So that's been cool. I get so inspired by some of their backstories. Like, I had a girl that
Mm.
does um cosmetology and eyebrows and stuff like that, and she's building a pretty much an empire doing that. But the backstory she had to get to where she was, I known her for years, and I had no idea she put herself through that. And I was like, at the end of that episode, I was just in awe. Just the same with your brother. I swear to God, after the episode with your brother, I felt like I could run through a wall. Like he got me so inspired.
He
And
got that. He got that in
yeah,
like something the unteachables. Like that's my brother's unteachable. I don't even
yo,
know if talent. Talent's the right word, but effect on
that's his
people.
gift. Yup.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I can see why he can inspire and get, he can bring the best out of his whole staff. Like they want to jump through hoops for him just because he's that strong of a positive energy. And I don't know, it was cool, but that's kind of my
I see.
how I started my podcast. The reason why I call it Above the Bridge is my where I live, there's a walk bridge that I hung out at when I was little. I would go fish, play in the water, and then as I got older, I would go there with friends that I'm close with and drink a beer and talk story, and those organic conversations I had at the bridge
Uh,
is kind of the same kind of idea of what I wanted to do for my podcast. And
I
then
see.
of course I wanted the content to um I guess identify the name versus the name identifying what I was doing. It kind of wanted to reverse it. I guess
Mm.
that makes a little bit of sense, but
Well, hey, that's the thing that you do it like whatever you
yeah,
want. Now is more than ever. Like we can do it, and you have been doing it even longer than me. Podcasting. So, props to you, man.
thank you,
Where you
bro.
where you at? You on Oahu
Yeah, I'm
or
in Kaneohe. Yep,
oh okay
yep.
okay
Born
oh
and
East
raised
Side
Kaneohe. Yep, yep,
East Side B side yeah you
yep. But yeah, that's kind of my whole story and how I got started. And bro, it's been honestly, if not one person listened to it, I would do it because of all the inspiration I've been getting, bro. It's insane.
you know what stuck out to me is when you're talking about your friend who passed
Yeah,
as well as your daughter like these are like even as a store of value in some kind of way and emotional value like I would love to have videos of my mom when she was my age, when she just had me and my brother, for example, like hearing her as a young parent talk about raising us, or like as an archive. There's so
yeah,
much value in it, even if it's to a small group of people, which is kind of, I think it's counterintuitive when we think podcasts. We think on every platform, every best guest, I got episodes every week, I got shorts. Like people think of that, but we could go the other way with depth in your own
yeah,
family. And I've seriously thought about doing just that. As a sort of a business where there's basically video journals, video archives. I mean, it's why I don't feel like I gotta hold on to this great idea. Like, if you can do it, do it. Like
yeah,
maybe I'll be a customer. You know what I mean? Because
yeah,
I know how valuable facial expression, the body language that happens right here, as well as voice, tone, delivery, over extended time. Like that's a great way to take a snapshot of anybody. And especially when it's like somebody you grew up with has a lot of significance to you. So this is kind of one of the pages I took from the wedding because I did weddings a long time here in Hawaii, right?
okay,
And for that, it's a very different lane of video work. And the overlap that I could see was, when we started doing, so shout out to Glenn, that's my classmate, Campbell '03. When I came back from Japan, he already had his wedding business started here in Hawaii.
okay,
And I had already been doing wedding videos in Japan. So when I was coming back home, he was like, "Hey, why don't you just work with me and then like let's grow." And so we did. And we started implementing interviews of the bride and groom on the day of their wedding, getting ready, when they're in a hotel and stuff. We would do these Q&As with these brides and grooms. And that's kind of what set us apart for many years. That's why a lot of people would hit us up and want us to do their wedding because we implemented this spoken and oftentimes non-scripted natural conversations for a very important day, right? And so what is that? That's a talking head video. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like, but we're changing the context. We're making it a specific day at a specific location for a specific ceremony, right? There's
Yeah.
other layers, but that part's the same. That spoke to me. I was like, that's the value of somebody sharing,
Yep.
opening up. And there's a skill on this side of the camera that often you don't see, where it's what kind of questions, how good am I reading this person, just interpersonal relationship skills, communication, a lot of that, which I think shout out to my brother because he's doing this with how many hundreds of people every time he's at Roy's, right?
Yeah.
So that kind of emotional intelligence can flourish in a place like this, um, for the same result of getting someone to open up, share in a way that doesn't feel coerced, unnatural, awkward, right? That's a skill on our end for like evoking that and creating the space for it. Um, and then you can go hard in the B rolls, the music, the text, the cuts, the pacing, you know, editing, coloring, all the other cinematic things if you want. On top of this, I think the base got to be the person though. What
Yeah.
you get them to do, say, or even if you just shut up and let them talk, but then you, when you're editing, you're like, this part hits. I'm gonna set it up with this. I'm gonna crank up the energy real high in the first like 3 seconds, 5 seconds. We're gonna plateau. We're gonna take a little break. We're gonna change the tempo, change the music, and then when they finish, I'm gonna take it right back up. But this time, instead of stress, anger, and fear, we're gonna end on like love, happiness, hope. Like so, it feels like it's like a different place to play with the human palette, and it's actually it's kind of like we're like, what are those people, conductors?
Yeah. Yeah.
We're kind of like conductors in a way.
You make it sound way more cooler than how I envisioned it in my head.
I mean, we doing the same thing, right?
Yeah, yeah.
But in our own way.
Yeah.
And there's no, and that's the thing, it's like a voice. I mean, we are talking about podcasting and content, but like somebody's voice, how we associate like the meaning of that. I think there's voices that come out in other ways that aren't spoken speech, like my voice as a creator, as a videographer. And so it's fun for me to just practice in that space too. Like, what's my voice with these tools? What kind of consistency, which is why I want to do 100, right?
Yeah.
It's like a kid learning to speak. You don't, it's there's a babbling phase of your podcast experience where people
Yes.
don't know what you're saying, you're
Exactly.
fumbling around, like you're gonna be babbling for a long time. But once you start like putting it together, like language acquisition, you'll get to a point where you're proficient, you're fluent, you can express ideas, and like, you know what I mean? So in a way, we're kind of doing the language, we're learning the language of media creation,
Yeah.
podcasting, and all that. In
I,
in the most beautiful backdrop
yeah.
ever, like Hawaii, you know. So
That's true. And I've what kind of tripped me out at one point, my daughter watched one of my episodes, the later episode, and she was like, Daddy, you're so much better than your first episodes. And she could tell the difference. I notice I'm way more confident than when I started. I remember the first couple episodes I was really scared or nervous or, oh, how's this going to turn out? What am I going to do? What am I going to say? Versus now I feel confident and I feel I'm the most myself I've been. Every single time that I do it, I feel more comfortable, and I feel like the people that are watching it have a better understanding of who I am because I'm more comfortable being myself now versus me trying to be some kind of podcaster from the podcast I have listened to or watched. And I'm now, this is Thad's podcast that's being myself and doing it how I want to do it, and it's more natural, and it was something that resonated with my daughter, and she could pick up on it, and that was like, okay, that now I'm kind of coming into my own if she's noticing it, so that was kind of cool for me.
Hey, how old is she? The one that said that. How old is that daughter?
She's 13, but she said it like last year, so she was 12.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. And she's
Okay.
not one to like give out compliments. You know what I mean?
I was gonna
Like,
say that age could be brutally honest, so it's
yeah,
probably
exactly. Yo,
yeah.
I would be flexing in the mirror. It's like, Daddy, your belly looks bigger. I'm like, oh man, what's going on?
So she knows, yeah, it's true what she says there.
Yeah, exactly. But what was your challenges getting started, and what was your challenging throughout the first 30 something episodes you've been having? What were kind of the difficulties you've been
You
having?
know, just I think everyone knows there's a huge gap, right? Like we know what podcasts are, but actually doing a podcast, that's a huge gap. And depending on how much resources, namely time, you have to commit to it,
Yeah.
that's it's like everyone wants a six pack and everyone knows how to get a six pack, but not everybody got a six pack. Like we all know how to, the information's there, the people are there, but there's a high fail rate. And
Yes.
even for someone like me, who I have this huge, long, like how many decade plus I've been doing video stuff. Like video is not the hard part for me. For a lot of people, it's what camera do I need? What mic do I need? How do I set it up? What kind of internet do I need? Like all these questions that unveil themselves once you're like, yeah, I want to do a podcast. And they're like, oh, wait, where do I start? How much is that? Should I get over there? I can order it where? Like all those questions pop up um, in the DIY model, which is what I am. And I think a
Yep.
lot of us were.
Definitely me.
If you have a partner, I think that's the way to go. Because then if you have like, let's say a team, or even if it's a business model, right? A partner, you handle the production side. I'll handle being like the host, and then we can work together on the guest list and all that. Like there's ways to do it with a team.
Yeah.
But for us DIYers, I think the hardest part is the time commitment to it
Yes.
because you ain't making money off it. You know what I'm saying? Like yet.
Yeah.
We all know how lucrative podcasts can be because the ones we probably watch
Yeah.
are monetized. They do have sponsorships and a team. But in this stage that we're in, where it's like we have to carry a lot of the load, we have to be organized. So for
Yep.
me, it was just organizing this space. A dedicated space, I think, is the first thing. Dedicate a space in your home or your office, somewhere you have access to. A dedicated space is number one because you're going to eliminate a lot of transportation, setup, and breakdown time. Because
Yeah.
those three things already, that's eating away huge chunk of time and energy,
Yep.
especially if there's stairs and elevators and parking and stuff involved, right?
Yeah.
So just dedicate that was the hardest thing. Is like once I knew like this is gonna be it. Sorry, girls, this bedroom is for daddy. Like then okay, then I got to the next problem, which is okay, I got the dedicated space, but do I have the dedicated gear? Again, I want to eliminate setup, breakdown, transportation, right? So I had to get the gear, and that means money. That
Yeah.
means time waiting for shipping to Hawaii. We all know how that is.
Yep.
So then you have the space, you have the gear. Do you have the people, or are you going to do it yourself? If you're doing it yourself, you're spending a lot of time learning, a lot of time messing up, a lot of time sending returns to get something else, and blah. Maybe I'll find out a second market. And then you get to the point where it's like, now I'm ready to actually press record. Okay, you're like a third of the way there
Yep.
because that's not even the post process. Where are you storing all your data? Like one podcast for me with three cameras, audio. I don't know for you, but like I'm talking, and this is not even 4K. I have one angle that I do in 4K, but if we include that, easy 250 gigs. Easy, easy, sometimes 350. And so after you do a few of those, you're like, oh, those little ones you buy at Costco in the electronics section, I'm gonna need a whole drawer just for those. Or do I just go ahead and invest in a huge, like a network that storage? Do I buy some kind of like online cloud-based storage system with Google? I just researched like 30 terabytes is like 1500 a month, I think.
Oh wow. You
Yeah,
need a
so like,
server.
no, that's what I'm saying. Like now there's another problem
Yeah.
that you have to address, or you can find the right person to address it for you, but then you got to pay that person or figure out an arrangement. So like all these things you don't think about but are necessary, right? Where does all the files go? Um, and then editing, like, okay, it's sharing it. If you're not streaming your podcast, which most people probably are not doing,
Yeah.
then there's a post process. And okay, are you doing that again? Are you doing it? Are you using what kind of tools are you using, like AI? I know there's a lot of plugins and stuff for the popular editors,
Yeah.
but that might be in this landscape format, and you want to repurpose that to make shorts. So you're making decisions about layouts, and there's so many decisions that could slow you down. That's why I named my podcast Bad as well. I was like, if you're making these decisions, it's like you're wasting time in a way. You got to find there's a point of diminishing returns, right? Of spending so much time building this thing to make a podcast that I'm not even making podcasts.
Yeah.
You know, it's this weird space. And so being okay with that, waving the bad flag, like, yeah, I know that edit wasn't as crispy as it could be. And
Yeah.
I was in the wrong angle. I lost the file. Like, yeah, it's bad. But that was episode 33, right? Yeah, I know it's bad. The audio was messed up and whatever. It to me, that's my cop out, really. It's just it doesn't have to be great as
Yeah.
long as it's done. I think done is better than perfect.
Yeah.
And taking that attitude towards podcasting is I'm just gonna do it like the 100. Once it's done, it's something I can point at, put on the shelf as a project and be like, look, this is what happens. This was the before and after. If you're along for the journey, great. If you weren't, you can go. This is the beginning of your discovery of what I
Yep.
did. Go ahead, start wherever you want in the vault and do it. So there's always going to be those like those hurdles, and a lot of time it's like you don't know what it's just like uncertainty. I think is the biggest hurdle.
Yep.
You don't know how to do this, or you don't know where this file went, or you don't know if this person they said they're gonna come today, but are they actually gonna come?
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? You know what I
Ah.
mean, bro. So I I'm not paying anybody, right? All right.
Yeah.
I do have some business expenses with certain amount of uh, labor that I could leverage. There's a certain
Yeah.
amount of that, but I didn't start this with that intention. And
Yeah.
I think a lot of people don't start their podcast with that intention either. It's more like you're a business owner and you already like social media and you already have a following. Let's do a podcast.
Yep.
But when you unbox that, you're like, oh, wait,
It's
okay,
not
never mind.
that
Let's just keep doing
easy.
social
Yeah.
media or, you
Yeah.
know, so
Wow. I'm so glad I'm having this conversation. There are multiple things you just touched on that I can totally relate to. Like the guest thing, I've been sitting because I use Zoom, which is fortunate for me. I can do this with guests from anywhere and they don't have to
yeah,
leave their house. That was my
that's
one
good.
of my ideas for it. But I've been sitting on my Zoom waiting for my guests to show up and it's like I get ghosted and then I'm like, "Oh shoot, now I promised myself I want to stay true to dropping one every week, then I got to scramble to find another one or it's just stuff that you don't understand. So I learned to be more flexible, but my biggest thing that my hurdle was that when I first started, my friend John, he's a video guy. So he produced my show. He works for
Mm,
Olelo
mm-hmm,
and we would record. He would be on the Zoom as well, and he would pop in and out. And it was like the me, him, and my guests. And it was cool. We were running it like that for about a year, and then he got
mm-hmm,
promoted in in
mm,
his job, and he could no longer have the time to do my show. like you said, it takes a long time to edit, and he's giving up his free time to do it. And it was a project that we decided to do together, but he no longer could do it. So I was at a crossroads. I could just let it die. I was having so much fun doing it, or I could learn how to edit. And then I got
Mhm.
excited for thinking like, oh, I'm gonna try and learn how to do this. Not easy. I started off with what is it, iMovie, and
Yeah,
so my
me too.
my yeah, and it was so raw and just not not anything special, but I was still doing it. I was still putting it out there. I was still learning. I was making episodes. I was doing it. And then I started to get a little better. And then Hoppa Boy, it's like my little brother, he does a lot of video stuff. His dad's Tiny Tadani, so he edited Tiny TV for years, and he's very good on
Oh,
video. Yeah,
yeah, yeah, yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
Taylor
Yeah, I know who
Tadani.
you're talking
Yeah,
about. Yeah,
yeah,
okay.
yeah. So he called me up one day and say, Thad, you gotta get Final Cut Pro. You outgrew iMovie.
iMovie.
And I'm like, no way. He's like, bruh, go get it now. I'm like, I look, it's like $300 or
Yeah,
whatever it was.
yeah,
I'm like,
yeah, yeah.
I'm not gonna buy it. I don't know how to use it. He's like, bruh, just do it and I'll help you. And of course, the University of YouTube and um through his help, I was able to put out a better product. I'm not where I want to be yet, but I'm still learning. And the fact that I'm learning how to do something and now I have creative control from start to finish. And every time I hit that button and it goes out everywhere, it's like I did everything myself. And that feeling of gratification was strong. Like I literally like found the guests, recorded, edited, put it out there, made a trailer, and I produced everything. And it's like, wow, I started to get proud. Like, oh man, that's pretty cool. And it
It,
goes all over the world.
it's building, it's building. That's what it is. So
Yeah,
like it doesn't matter if you're building a house or a podcast, a YouTube channel, a relationship with somebody, like building is not done today, right?
yeah,
And you need somewhat of a plan, you need foundation. So a lot of those principles of building something apply here too. And what you're describing is your building process. And there's value in not just like, here's a bunch of money, give me your building,
yeah,
which again, that's another play. That's just another play in the game we're doing, right? But what we're talking about is building our own layout, our
yeah,
own custom, whatever, like you're saying, that autonomy that you experience, right? Yeah, and it feels good when it feels the best when you're like super tired, right? You did your money making activity, then you come home and it's like, well, I told myself I'm doing one a week, so I have to do this. Now you're
yep,
doing your non-money making activity that you committed to. When
yep,
you're at that, like your gas tank is low, your energy is like 2% running low, then you think about the fact that you're building it. That gives you that extra boost
yep,
to finish it out, or at least feel good with like, you know what, I can stop here today because I know I took a step. I did. I sent one email, or I created one calendar that now I can send out to my guests, or like I did one thing towards this thing I'm trying to build. And it's kind of like farming in that sense, right? You're cultivating a garden. You're kind of you're giving space for things to be what they're already naturally doing, but
yeah,
you're kind of being the not collector, but cultivating, curating. You're curating for us having guests on. It's like we're curating, but we're not intervening and we're not imposing on whoever this person is. We're just like,
yeah,
you be you here
yep,
with me, and
exactly.
I want you to get something too. So how can I make you walk out of here better? And a lot of times it's this. It's like, hey, you can come here, and after this, whatever you had to share, your message, your campaign, your what the dad, the father daughter prom, like whatever it is that you're working on, now there's another door for people to walk through and witness it. I'm
Yep.
just building the door here.
Yep.
So it's like it's what TV channels used to be growing
Yeah.
up. I don't know how old you are. What year you grad?
Bruh, I'm old.
You,
I'll
okay,
tell I
you look young though. Because but
I'm gonna have to beep this out. I'm about 10 years older than you.
oh,
Yeah.
so you okay, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, right, you look like you class of 2012 or
I
something.
know. We'll keep it that way.
That's good on you, bro.
Yeah. But I think what you said too, that door, people can get inspired by it. And I've had people hit me up out of nowhere, like, oh, that one guest got me to do this or got me to think about things differently, or oh, that guy inspired me to try something like that. And oh, for me, that's been the most gratifying is having my guests or myself inspire someone else
Yeah.
to change the path of their life. That's not easy to do, but it's rewarding. And for somebody to actually listen to one of these episodes, get inspired enough to actually pull a trigger on one of their goals and dreams, that's been like the best. And it's hard. Like, I know a lot of people that talk about doing a lot of things, but my biggest thing was talk about it or be about it. Like, I was
You-
I was talking for a long time until I pulled triggers. And now I'm hoping to inspire other people to pull triggers, because that's the biggest hang up. Like you said, just starting a podcast. Nobody knows how much work goes into it until you do it. And to start it is crazy. But for me, from this journey, I built my own website. I learned how to get my RSS number and be able to put this on all
yeah.
platforms. I had to do learn so many different things, the video edit, to do make trade. Like, I learned so much stuff just from pulling that one trigger, that I have these skills and knowledge that I could use for other things and also help people that are trying to get into it. But I would have not known any of this stuff or have any clue how hard it was to do it and stay consistent.
That reminds me of like for me, I just my personal sort of I don't know if I want to say like thermometer or like some kind of measuring device. I'm trying to think of like what measuring device is appropriate here. But for a compass, maybe like internally that kind of keeps my actions guided is like if I spend Shogun on what Hulu or Disney, whatever.
Yeah.
Hey, I like I'm from Japan. I mean, I'm Japanese American, but I lived in Japan. Like I like watching other language or especially Japanese language to keep myself sharp. And it's action cool. Like, but if I watch 3 episodes, like back to back to back, like we've all done, like my compass is telling me, okay, 3 hours consuming, you need to spend 3 hours to create.
Yeah.
And that doesn't happen. Like, let's just be real. Um, but a lot of times I get close. And there are days where I'm spending way more time creating than I am consuming. So I'm just always thinking like I get so much from what other people put out consuming.
Yeah.
And I try to be like intentional about what I consume with these tools that is so easy to consume. And so in a way I feel like indebted, like I need to create as well. I need to balance it out. I'm so in debt, consuming, taking. Like I need to also give. I need to also put out just for my own like time and my eyes, you know what I mean? Like staring at a screen. But then I gotta get out and shoot. Or I'll do something that kind of balances that scale towards not just being a complete couch potato consuming what other people make. I
Yeah.
also want to contribute to this landscape and make something for someone else to go
Yep.
veg out a little bit and then they can go make something. You know what I mean?
So
So
that's what yin yang is, right? Perfect balance.
yeah, give and take, light and dark,
Yeah.
right? This polarity. And I think it's now, especially even Instagram, um, like the editing tools in Instagram today, this is what, May 2024, right? Are like you could get away being like I don't want to use the word legit. I think it kind of, but you could make a whole ass online identity with the tools in Instagram, and people
Yeah.
already do,
Yep.
and not just Instagram, TikTok, whatever, CapCut. Like it's so easy now to then kind of contribute again to offset your consumption level. You know, your creation level is a little bit higher too. That I feel like there's almost no excuse,
Yeah.
especially if you're a business,
Yeah.
especially if you're a business, like personal stuff, whatever. Like my personal stuff, private, whatever. But like if it's a business and you don't have some kind of digital footprint or like some kind of where can I find you and listen to you outlet, even if it's not you, but like you as in a brand,
Yeah.
a service, a product, like where can I find you and then consume, right? Like it's almost if you're not a business that creates something for people to consume, to then lead to whatever sales, products, info, whatever. Like what are you doing?
Yeah.
Because it's available, even if
Yep.
you don't pay somebody like me, or even if you don't ask your 20-year-old niece who's like the best TikToker, you know what I mean?
Yep.
You can do it. Like right now with this device in your hand, you could do it. Um, so there's an empowerment factor
Yeah.
today more than ever. I'm benefiting from it. A lot of people that I talk to and have these conversations with bene benefit from it. But at the same time, the other side of it is it also creates this pressure
Yeah.
to keep feeding the beast, right? And that pressure, perfection. There's probably another P I can make and make it creative, like some kind of like
Yep.
PVV, but like people feel the pressure and they want to be perfect.
Paranoia. Nah.
You know, yeah, pick it.
Yeah.
I don't know, like there's a time factor too, where it's like
Yeah.
I didn't post in X amount of days, right? There's a whole negative feedback loop that can happen as well.
Yes.
So we can't just ignore that. Yeah.
It's rough, man. Like these are problems that I've never had to deal with as a younger kid that my daughter will have to do that. Social media presence is strong and it's they use the word influencer kind of sparingly, but you can influence, but which way are you influencing, in a positive way or in a negative way? The negativity is what gets the most views, is what gets the most interaction. I could put a video of me singing a song and it could get 100 likes. I put a video of me pounding one guy out on the street, I guarantee that one is going to get way more views and reposts and talked about, and it's just negative. I don't
But
understand why it's like that sometimes.
you know what? Like recently, as somebody who both creates and consumes at the level I do,
Yeah.
like which is a lot, um, I started getting like I like to look in the comment section,
Oh,
like
bruh.
more because before
Are-
I was not. That's the thing. I was like, I was not. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Um, for example, I'm the content director of Moving Hawaii, which is a YouTube real estate channel. I'm the video partner, and there's real estate agents that I work with, and we make a YouTube channel, right, bro? Just that already, just giving those facts I just get. YouTube, Hawaii, real estate. Already, you can imagine what comments we get, right?
Yep.
And so I like that's why I was a non-comment reader for many years. But like just this year, recently, I was like dipping in and looking at them, and I feel like there's a couple of things. One, people's bullshit meters are getting better, sharper, more fine tuned. Like we can sniff something out
Yeah.
way better now. Like, oh, it's a skit, but you guys set this up. This might even be the fifth take that we're seeing right now. Like we
Yeah.
can see that more now. Oh, this is scrap over there and like Windward Mall or something, but we're way more sensitive now. And as reflected in the comments, the other part is that I think people have that same kind of feeling where we're like, why is this popular? Why is this guy getting lickings in some mall in Hawaii? Or why is this guy running away, shooting or car crash? Like news, right? This attention hook that just gouges your eyes and says, come close to this screen, don't put it down, blast the volume up, which is violence, fear. Why? Like people, I think now, because we have so much of it, that one, we can sense if it's kind of like real or fake, but also two, like, I don't want this. And
Yeah.
even if someone shares, even if someone sends it to me in my DM, like, oh, check out this scrap, like I'm more like, I don't even want that. I don't even want to see it. You know what I mean? Like, I'm
Yeah.
not gonna click that thing that says like see video. Like, I
Yeah.
don't want to see people getting messed up.
Yeah.
Why? What good is that doing for me? I think more people now are like, I don't want to say desensitized, but we can sniff it out. And two, it's also like we can also be like, no, I ain't with it. Even if you made me see it, or someone like waiting in line with your friend, oh look at this, and you get like shown. We all get like shown
Yeah.
stuff, right?
Check this
And like,
out.
oh,
Yeah.
you gonna make me watch all 90 of these seconds? You know,
Yeah. You're
even
standing
there,
there
I'd be
like,
like, no.
okay.
I've said that. I've said that to be like, no, I don't want to watch that shit. Sorry, I should. I say no, I don't want to watch that.
Yeah.
It's not gonna do anything good for me to see somebody get beat up,
Yeah.
unless it's Max
Somebody I know.
UFC or something
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
But like
Yeah.
in a sporting ring, we talking like these sensational, dramatic, uh, fear mongering clips,
Yeah.
traditional news, right? Oh no, you're
Yeah.
good. You're scared. Stay tuned. Like
Yeah.
I ain't, I am not with that, but same time, there's older audience like my mom's generation and stuff where that's easy to go down, get slippery slope to just keep
Oh
watching
yeah.
the next one,
That
next one,
rabbit
next one,
hole.
next
Yeah.
one. And so I
Yeah.
don't know. We got it's great, but it's also scary. So I get
Yeah.
it.
Right. You mentioned those comments, right? Some of those comments, some of these people should be comedians because they say some crazy
Hey,
stuff.
that's
They're no chill, man.
bro, ruthless. Like
Bruh.
I used to like watching like rap battles, URL, Kick It at the
Oh
Dot, like
yeah.
these leagues, right? I was like, oh, entertainment, bars, disses, right?
Yeah.
The comment section is undefeated though.
Undefeated.
I I just love
uh
like I'm like, wow, there's a lot of creativity. Um, again, there's some bad stuff, but
yeah.
I think the most like if you were just to have like a camera on me when I'm looking at social media, when I'm laughing the most, it's probably because of comments.
Yeah,
Like,
I agree. There's no chill. My friend would
bro,
send me a video and tell me, you don't even have to watch the video, just read the comments. And I'm like, oh, and then oh, it's rootless.
it feels like high
People,
school,
yeah,
like when people are roasting each other in the
yeah,
courtyard, like.
yeah. And the creativity they use is next level.
It's like stand-up comics, right?
Yeah,
Like a stand-up comic can say anything
yeah,
because it's stand-up comedy. I feel like people take that to the comment section. It's like you just get wild, like, but you can also F around and find out.
yeah,
But for most of the time, keyboard warrior type.
yeah.
But it's
In
funny.
there,
But when it's
yeah,
funny though, I'm like, oh,
yeah. Yeah,
that's too good.
90% they're in their parents' house with Cheeto fingers talking trash that would never ever say that to that person's face. But hey, that's the time we live in.
Yeah.
Um to get back to your videos, just from the work I seen that you post on Instagram, and I use that word at the beginning, it is art. The way your transitions, the ideas, the flow, the angles, it is so creative. It's fun. It's elegant to watch. It's not a average Instagram video. It's not an average advertising. It's not like even the stuffs you did for your brother with Taisei discovers, like that could be on the Discovery Channel or the Travel Channel. It's
You know, that's one of the goals.
yeah,
But
yeah.
th-
It's a trip, bro. Like you got next level talent. How did you develop that? Or is that just something in your head and then you're just so keen to create it the way you vision it? It's not normal.
Well, well, vision, right?
Yeah.
Our vision, you and me and most humans, right? Our eyes, we have two of them. It's kind of, I think I heard people say it's around a 35 millimeter lens on a full frame, like that, as far as field of view. Um, and the way we perceive everyday life, I think, first of all, kind of to partially answer your question, is perception. I just think it's me expressing the way I perceive things, like very base level. But on a technical level, it's like, well, what I see with my eyes in real time, I have to translate. It has to go through a process of like using tools, cameras, lenses, all of that, processing it, editing, right? And then putting it out for people to for like for you to watch and say
Yeah.
that is art. So that's kind of what's happening, right? But the first step is my perception. So anybody else who asks this kind of question, either of me or of themselves, right? Like, how do I make cool videos? Um, my question is, what's your perception of things? And you can break that down literally, like how I see things. Like if we're in the same room, what's the most interesting thing here? Or what's the lighting in, where would I put someone who's talking in this room? Next to that window or next to that window? Maybe sitting down or standing up. Maybe I'd want this behind that person. There's that kind of perception, but there's also like, what does this person want to say but can't say or is fumbling around? What are they avoiding? Seeing that kind of perception as well. Like this person is super passionate about wine, or for Thai, for example.
Yeah.
Um, the perception of a person and their motives and their strengths and weaknesses as well. And then you playing off of that or feeding into it. And then, that's kind of like the raw commodity of human experience you're gathering that with your perceptions. And then you have the post process, which a lot of people who are videographers, it's such a broad term now. I don't think it does it justice, but like if you're making videos, I think now you're also editing.
Yeah.
Whereas maybe 5, 10 years ago, maybe you weren't. There was an editor that worked with a videographer, and they're all kind of like a pharmacist who works with a dentist, or you know what I mean? It's like
Yeah.
you're a loan officer and a real estate agent. It's like you guys are connected at the hip. You kind of need each other.
Yeah.
But today it's like because of social media largely and smartphones, shooting and editing is oftentimes like there's the same, or a lot of
Yeah.
it's the same. I For me, I've just been doing it for so long that like I've been a part of that whole thing for a large part of the evolution of that got us to where we are today, such that I can express my perception in the post process as well. And
Yes.
so I'm bringing more ideas to that process as well, which then is somewhat of like I feel like I'm in a writer's chair or like a newspaper editor, because I'm thinking of, now I turn off my, like, before that it's okay, lighting, angles, lines, framing, composition, angles, these things. But when we go into the editing bay, I think a little bit more like a writer thinks about the message, the delivery, the pace, the hook, the attention, the the attention, right? Like, am I going to put this piece before this piece or that piece? How am I going to line up this sequence? In fact, I'm only going to take the first third of this sequence to tease this second and third, and I'm going to bring a whole nother scene and introduce that. So now I'm going to introduce scene one, part one, introduce scene two, part one, then scene two, part two, scene two, part three, and then I go scene one, part two, scene one, part three. Like there's ways to move in that process, express the perception you have of whatever raw materials that you, in this case, you like me, harvested, harvested, extracted from the human experience, right?
Yeah.
So because you're a part of all of that, it's like a cook who is also a farmer. You have a lot more room for expression and creativity that just by going through the process without too much like intention of being artsy, just by going from A to Z, from seed to dish in this, just by going through that process, that is a piece of art.
Yes.
That's just something that a lot of people won't be able to recreate, even if I
Yep.
gave you the same seeds, or even if I gave you the same non, same editor or same software, same tools, cameras, same day. Like that's why maybe you use the word art. That's what you felt because I'm just a part of that whole process. On top of that, I have the advantage of being around amazing people.
Yeah.
So Ty, right, my brother, um, he just has to be him. And I told him like, I'm not gonna direct you how I do, let's say, bride and grooms.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna direct you like that. I'll chime in when I feel necessary. Otherwise, I'm fly on the wall, and you just focus on the questions you have in your head about where we are and who we're gonna see. And I might just say, "Tell me about that." Okay, revisit that. Why did you say it smells like a wet forest floor that you step on when there's wet leaves? Like I might do that kind of thing, but I don't want to put words in anybody's mouth. My job is to just let them shine. Kalo has another good example. Um, oh, the guy dancing in the kitchen cooking. I don't have to do a lot of heavy lifting working with Kealoha, for example, because he's such a strong, expressive artist person himself that when I'm like, all right, what we doing today? He'll say, all right, I'm gonna prep this, then I'm gonna prep the chicken, I'm gonna move it over there, then I'm making the sauce, and I'm gonna plate it. And like that's all the direction that he can give me. And I'm like, got it. And then I just fall back on my experience, some second nature, because I've shot so many people, places, things, right? And I'm part of the whole process. So there's no handoff to somebody else
Yeah.
to them be like, okay, you do it now because I'm paying you. Or you do it, you do it now because that's our relationship right? At work.
Yeah.
So there's a handmade quality to it that I think, people respond to because it's not something that you just send off to remote editors, virtual assistants, Fiverr video editors, and I'm not. I use as a user of everything I just said. I do use these services, right? Like, but this one thing is my garden in a sense. Like, this is what I touch from
Yeah.
seed to plate, from beginning to end, and I have the experience that I can get through it quicker than most. In
Yeah.
most cases, um, there's not too much friction for me to get from this whole process just because I've been doing it for so long. And my perception, it really, to me, it just feels like I'm just letting you guys know how I perceive this. What he just said, I think is important. I think this bureau is important. I think this order of sequence is important. And then that's it. Like I don't go too much, I don't do too much like re-editing
Yeah.
when I am editing. It's oftentimes like I do a first pass, pick the sections that I want. In the cases that you find on my Instagram, like I listen first and I'm like, that makes sense. So I have talking head pieces. That's the first layer, first pass. Then the second pass is, all right, what visual elements can I support the story that's already being spoken? Okay, if I have B-rolls, great. If I don't, I don't.
Yeah.
Stock images, whatever. Um, and then I can choose to spruce it up, put little toppings on it,
Yeah.
where it's like things like on-screen digital assets like logos, phone numbers, handles, or even stuff like subtitles, color fonts. Like that's all. And music. We didn't even talk about sound design. Like
Yeah.
those are like toppings for at least this kind of stuff that you'll see on Instagram right now. And I think it's fun. I do feel like a chef in a kitchen because I have all these ingredients. Today I might be a little lazy, so I'm not gonna do the process that takes 25 minutes longer. I'm gonna take the
Yeah,
5 minute process. You know, like I have that kind of flexibility, but at the end, I know I have to have a dish, something to
yeah,
share. Again, it don't mean anything unless it's shared. So it's fun for me. I really feel like I'm just expressing what I perceive in people, places, and things, ideas and stories. And it's just that I can move at a pace that is supportive from my years of just doing it so many times.
yeah. That's exactly the feedback I got from like Hoppa Boy when he makes a video. I was like, oh man, that thing was so amazing. How long did it take you? And he's like, oh, about 30 minutes. I'm like, oh, bro, that would have took me like almost 18 hours to do. Is like, but like you said,
Took me
he
all
did it
weekend.
so many, yeah. And the way you put your vision to video is elegant. You have that expertise and it becomes something different. What do you use to edit your videos? Like what software?
I like you. I started at iMovie, then I went to probably a 2010-ish, maybe, or I think that's when I got my first like Mac desktop. I was still in Japan, I remember. Um, and then I went from iMovie to the natural progression there is iMovie to Final Cut, Final
Yeah.
Cut 10. I didn't do like Final Cut 7. And then I got into because some of the schools that I worked at had Adobe. I don't know if they called it Adobe Suite back then, but it was all the Adobe. So not Final Cut, sorry. I was thinking like Lightroom,
Oh,
Photoshop, Premiere,
Premiere.
Effects, Illustrator. So I
Yeah.
already use Illustrator and Photoshop, but then like Lightroom and Premiere, Effects, these things came in. So I got into it for a little bit. And then I just for me, like my workhorse is Final Cut.
Okay.
Then probably like 3 years ago, somewhere around COVID, DaVinci. I started messing with DaVinci for if you're doing anything color, people say like use DaVinci. Or if you're starting, people say start with DaVinci. If you never touched any kind of nonlinear editor before, if you only come from Instagram and CapCut and TikTok, like, and you want to move to editing on a on a computer, start with DaVinci because it does all the other things that Premiere and Final Cut do, except what it offers you for the color grading, as well as there's so many videos on YouTube. You could just go search Final Cut versus DaVinci, DaVinci versus Premiere, or whatever. But for the computing side of things, for the color grading side of things, for the convenience side, and it's free. I think there's a free
Oh.
version, right? I bought mine for 250 or 300, like you did.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
it's a lifetime use license, so
Yeah.
cool. But I use Final Cut as my workhorse. I've started also using Descript. Descript is a like a sleeping giant when it comes to video editing. It's what I use for making captions. It's what I use to make sometimes transcribe videos,
Oh,
so
I see.
speech to text. Um, but most of the time, so it's Final Cut Pro 10, getting into DaVinci again, and Descript.
Okay. Oh, that's good news. I'm happy to hear you use Final Cut. It makes me feel a little bit more legit. Nah.
I know, you know, because people probably people like in the techie space, right? People get real
Yeah.
like Sony gang, or
Yeah.
like, man, whatever. But nobody cares. No one watches the video like, man, this should have been edited on
Yeah,
Premiere.
exactly.
Oh, this should have been edited on the like, no, get
Yeah.
out of here.
Oh, right on, man. Well, we've been going for over an hour. I feel like I could
Oh
talk to
wow.
you for another 7 more hours. I feel like a lot of your ideas and
Hey,
trials you had, I totally can relate to, bruh. And I'm blown away with how similar you are to your brother. Yeah,
hey, yeah. If you don't want to, most people like know both of us because we both
yeah,
born and raised here. So like, and we're only a year and a half apart. So like, if you know one, you probably know both of us.
Yeah, I feel like you guys must have growing up and inspired each other a lot, and you guys
Eh,
have something good going on, bro.
No, no, I appreciate it. I appreciate it. You too, man. I mean, like we said, it ain't easy. We
Yeah.
fighting a good fight.
So what are your goals? Like, where do you see both the video stuff and podcasting taking you? Like, do you have set goals, or you're just kind of
Mm.
navigating the future as it comes?
Well, immediate goal is just do 100 reps.
Yeah.
Um, right? Getting close to halftime there. But long-term goal, I would like to see again, like I don't want to it's nice to have like a North Star type of thing, but I don't want to be tied to a result.
Yeah.
I want to be process focused in this regard. But if I were to be like a wishful thinker, a happy ending of sorts would be, or a happy new beginning of sorts would be, I create it's a blueprint. I have a blueprint that includes a YouTube channel with 100 episodes. I also have systems and processes, or I have a SOP. I have a data management map. I have a Amazon, what is that, like shopping list. I have for like big, medium, small. Basically, I have a kit, maybe even like some live videos of me going through and editing an hour and a half podcast and taking 5 shorts from it, like how I do it, type of thing. Like a go kit for anybody to take, look at, dissect, less friction for them because they're starting out and they're like, I don't know where to start. This is a resource
Yep.
that anyone in the world can look at and modify, innovate, iterate themselves where they're at with their resources, with the people they know. Such that kind of like, I don't know if you remember, like, there's all kinds of challenges. There was like a
Yeah.
moment, yeah, where like that's what social media was. It's like
Yep.
challenges.
The
And so
100 push-up challenge. Yeah.
all of you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
planking and like I don't know, is that even a challenge? But like that kind of vibe where, hey, look, this is a blueprint. That's why I don't want it to be a Kenji thing. It's a thing that Kenji participated in, right? I just want to tip the first domino. I mean, I'm not even the first. Like I'm being influenced by a lot of people too,
Yeah.
but I want to create a resource that's like more than just the video or the camera, the editing and stuff, but also like what it's like to hire a virtual assistant or um, how to collaborate, how to create a contract, like things that people don't think about when they think I just want to make videos. Just the way I did it. Again, it's not the end all be all, but it's a resource that then you take and run with. And so, perfect world is like Sony says, man, you did that with our cameras. Thanks, Kenji. We're going to sponsor. So, I would like to have it where it's like a bunch of partners come in, sponsors, partners, and we create these kits for 100 people to do their own 100. So now we got 100,000, or what is that? 100, we got 100,000 more podcast videos. And I think 100 more windows to connect with people in a very intentional conversation that they're having,
Yes.
right? So it's the domino effect that I want to create at least a blueprint for that. Imagine what happens if 100 people do 100 videos and so forth and so forth.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like big picture, but I know for sure in my own personal life, this is big picture stuff that I can't control. But in my life, what I can control, like if I have 100 intentional conversations and I share it, I know the before and after pic is going to look real different.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's crazy to think that one of your future goal is to give people an idea how to reach their goals. That means you're a giver. That's aloha. That is what aloha is. And That's the kind of people I want on my show, and that's why I'm happy to have you.
Thank you.
That's
That
super cool, bro. That made me feel happy. The future goals I think you'll reach. I also know that your brother has some future goals, and I know you're tied into it with him. And bro, you guys have no cap. Like you guys are shaking this thing up, and the energy of and positivity you guys are bringing out is infectious. And I think you guys are onto something big. I don't know what or when or how. Like is you guys are gonna do something. It's gonna be something, bro.
yeah, and I can't tell you either. From this point
Yeah,
where we're at, I don't know what
yeah,
it is, but we like what we've done so far. We've seen the waves that we've made
yeah,
doing the things at the level we've been doing. So we know we got more.
yeah.
And so there's just a big question mark, but we're excited to uncover that.
It's crazy to think like yin yang, bro. He got long hair and dreads, and you're bald. That's perfect balance.
I tell people, oh, he's the fuzzy one, because
Yeah.
I used to have a beard stash, but then I was like, nah, just go full on in the
Yeah.
shower one time.
That's awesome. So social media wise, where can people find you?
YouTube, 100 bad videos. If you're on Instagram, I might see that's the other part where I was like, I'm at Kenji Walks on Instagram, and maybe one day I think I might make a. I do already have the 100 bad videos on Instagram, the handle, but there's a couple more things I want to do before I start populating that one. I think eventually I will. This is another like midterm goal is I will launch a full on like release. I use Kenji Walks as like a personal because my sphere is not as big as the sphere that I know I can reach.
Yeah.
And that's the interesting thing about Instagram versus YouTube conversation, really quick, is like these are not the same audiences. Uh, uh, YouTube has way more reach, has way more longevity in every second that you contribute to the internet. And that's why you're going to get different results on those platforms. And I use Instagram as a testing field with people who I have a closer relationship to versus the quote unquote strangers on YouTube. Um, so I use Instagram like a tool to get better feedback about certain content. I post the same video a lot of times because I want to see what's the difference. I might make one tweak and post here, check it out. People forget about it in 2 weeks anyway. I'll post
Yeah.
it again 2 months down the road, and I'm learning, I'm refining what makes something perform and the kind of feedback again, comment section, right?
Yeah.
And then I put that to live on YouTube. So it's kind of like using Instagram as a way to test
Yeah.
your products and then introduce them to the market on YouTube where the
Oh,
longevity
that's
factor
smart.
is there. So that's why, like, on Instagram right now, you could check me out at Kenji Walks because I walk the walk, right? I want to focus on action. And on YouTube, you can find me at 100 Bad Videos.
All right on. And for us, it's the same. You can find us on Above the Bridge Podcasts on Instagram, YouTube channel. ATB Pod is our website, and my Instagram is Daddy Daddy High. Well, I definitely appreciate you coming on. I definitely gonna have you and your brother back again because I just need that dopamine shot of positive energy every now and then. But I feel like I said, you guys are gonna do something big, and the humble walk that you guys are walking with that idea of something big is gonna it's gonna catch you guys. I feel like success is on the horizon for you guys, bro. It's inevitable.
I appreciate
Um,
that.
you guys do it with aloha. You guys both have that aloha vibe, and um, I think Hawaii needs more of that because of all the negativity that's being thrown around. That aloha gotta come through, and Hawaii gotta be the beacon, not just for us here, but for the whole earth. We gotta be the beacon of aloha. It starts here and it gotta shine through.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. All right, man. Well, shakas for the cameras. Right on, Brad. We're out. Shout out to the Artist Group Network. Aloha.